How do you distinguish for yourself impulsivity and spontaneity? Because that's a fantastic question.
One of the things that I understand, and I don't get it right all the time, I understand that I have the disease of addiction and it affects my thinking.
Oh.
And there is a part of me that leans towards pleasure. Anything that feels good. Now, anything that feels good isn't always good, but sometimes things that feel good are good for you. It feels good to go on a trip. So I can be spontaneous and put together a trip, but I can be impulsive and put together a trip when it's the wrong time or it costs too much money or I have X, Y, and Z things to do that are priorities that I'm not going to be able to do.
Yep.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today is a fantastic day because my guest today has proven again and again that the past does not equal the future. That indeed life in sobriety can be amazing and is very likely to be so if you put the right skill set in place and actually use those skills on a daily fashion. And it's amazing what you can achieve. And it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 50, 60. My guest proves to us that indeed you can live an absolutely life beyond your wildest dreams once you actually disregard your age, number one. B, just show addiction where to go. Come on. Fuck off, basically. And here we are. We have got today Michael Herbert, who is an amazing man, and we'll look at all his achievements in a moment. Michael, welcome onto my show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Good to be here. What an introduction.
Oh, please. No, you are an amazing man. It is. And I know it because we are both in the same age group. And I know how hard it is, for example, when it comes to physical exercise, to get traction, to actually really go out there. And I already give one of your achievements, Michael. Here you are. At the age of 51, things, might start a bit of running. And before you know it, this dude is crossing 155 kilometers in a race through the Sahara Desert. Are you nuts?
Excuse me, it's 250 kilometers. It was 155 miles.
Miles. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Yeah, exactly.
Don't take away from my accomplishment, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Both of them are mental. No, but wow. Wow. How did you get to that? Because I'm sure the past was very different, was it?
Well, listen, I had, run here and there before, 2 miles, 5 miles, that kind of thing. And I was asked by a woman, actually she was older than I was, if I would be interested in doing an ultra marathon. And I said, yeah, where is it? She said, well, it's in the Sahara Desert, Egypt. I said, sure, I'll go. I knew, I'm kind of bullshitting her, right? She wanted me to do it, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it. But I said, well, I'm going to do it. And I had no belief that I could do it, but I started the training. And so I started training for this 13 months before the race. By month 6, I had gotten up to being able to run consistently for 16 miles.
Wow. Okay.
And at month 6, I was done. I said, I can't keep doing this. This is outrageous. I cannot do this. I can't run more than these 16 miles. So I decided to change my training. And I was already going to CrossFit. So I did my CrossFit 4 or 5 days a week. But then I would go to the beach. And every day I would run a mile on the sand. And I said, you know what? This is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to run 20 miles. So I did that for 7 months. When I got to Egypt, I didn't think I could do it. But I said, screw it. I'm going to try it anyway. So I'm in Egypt. The first day of the race, We started running, and it was tough. At mile 18, my feet swelled up so bad, even though I got my shoes a half a size bigger, that I couldn't wear my shoes anymore. And I said, oh boy, how am I going to finish this race? Luckily, I brought a pair of Tevas with me. So I had these Teva sandals, and I always wear toe socks because I know that protects you from the blisters.
Yeah.
So for 137 miles, I ran the race in Tevas. So the first day was hard as hell. The second day got easier. The third day was even easier. The fourth day was absolutely terrible. And I was, I think, about 140 pounds. I'm 6'2", so I was like one of the tallest and the heaviest runners there. And of course, I finished at the end of the day. So I was one of the last ones coming in. And you know what's so bad about being one of the last ones coming in? They have toilets. And when you're the last one coming in, you use the toilet after everybody else has been using it. So that was never fun, coming in there. Because we slept in the desert, we slept in tents. We had to carry all of our food and all of our equipment with us. And every 6 miles, they filled up your 3 water bottles.
Oh, dear.
So the very last day was a 58-mile race. And wow. I'm out there on the 58 miles, so I had to walk at this point. And right before we got to the end, I could see the end of the race. I could see the finish line. It was 15 miles away. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I can't run anymore. I got my dogs here, and every time I come in this room, they start to play. So I have to kick them a little bit. So there's 15 miles left. I said, I'm going to end here. And I'll just let people know I ran 137 miles through the Sahara Desert. That's a lot. And then lo comes this woman coming up behind me. And I'm looking at her, and she didn't have any shoes on. I said, what happened? Well, my shoes got all busted up, and I had to run the rest of this way in socks. And I said, listen, if this lady can run this race in socks, I can finish it in my Tevas. So me and her finished together that 155-mile race. Now, there was 183 of us that started, 117 finished, and I was 114 out of 117. So I was the 4th slowest in the race. But my claim to fame was I beat the youngest, who was a Korean kid that was 19 years old. So I can feel good about the fact that I beat a 19-year-old in a 155-mile race. Along with that, I was able to raise almost $100,000 for a scholarship fund. So that was really a great accomplishment that people, they trusted in me, and I had known these people, and they donated from different places. They wrote out checks. One woman's son died of addiction. And she said, well, Michael, he's got a BMW. If you'd like to sell it and use that money for this race, you can do it. So I sold the car. It was $13,000. And that went into the scholarship fund. So wow. It was a great accomplishment for me. But I was able to serve others and give others a help in their recovery process that needed some financial help in getting into treatment. So that felt really good that I was able to do that, let alone raise the money, but finish the race. And part of that, I was able to get 6 other people in recovery to run a similar race in Chile and in China.
Wow.
So I'm not the only one who did it. On my particular race, though, I was the only person in recovery. And the funny thing about addiction is you can find it anywhere. So one of the days, day 3, I'm out in the middle, and somebody offered me pain medication. Hey, you want a couple of these to help you get through the race? I said, no, I'll be fine. There was one woman, 3 days into this race, and she's stopping to smoke a cigarette. I said, well, listen, to each his own, so it was a great experience. And of course, you do it once. Well, Michael, you should do it again. So I tried it again the following year, and I wasn't able to make it. It was just I hurt my knee, and I wasn't able to make it. So that was it. I continued to run up until I was about 60, probably 60, because I'm 64 now. And then I got at 61, I continued to run. And then I got total knee replacement, which canceled my running career. But a month before I did total knee replacement, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. So I got my Kilimanjaro in before my running career was over. I still hike now, but no more running. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
But it just shows. I mean, there are so many lessons in that. First of all, you were not just doing it for your own self-service, instant satisfaction. You actually overcame a huge obstacle, your inner critic. The kind of the imposter syndrome that constantly, well, you to run a bloody ultra marathon, to actually overcome your own Schweinehund, as I call that dude in me who tries to tell me stupid things. That is, I think, the biggest hurdle. And you believe enough in yourself to know that you have overcome a lot of challenges in your own life. And now,
also on this race, one of the things that kind of was related to recovery was at night when you run, you follow the runner in front of you that has a red light on their back.
Yeah.
And so it's just like kind of sponsorship. You follow the ones before you, and I had a red light on my back.
Yeah.
And people followed me. So we all had something to offer in this process. I followed others, others followed me. And for me, this was not about winning the race. It was just about completion. That I want to finish something that I started. Although there were times in the process I was ready to quit. But you know what? That woman that came up with on the side of me with no socks on was, kind of like the higher power giving me a message, because left on my own, I would have just quit. But, she almost shamed me into finishing this race, So we have to look for the signs and the messages that come along with recovery and then respond to them and not just ignore them. And that's what I try to do. Yeah.
Beautiful. But also you had a why. You had a mission. You had not just done it all yourself and kept it all quiet to yourself, but you have gone out. You proved yourself accountable to all those people who believed in you. And again, it's the talking about the problems. It's actually revealing, opening up, being authentic, and showing integrity. All those kind of things that we are rather bad in when it comes to addiction, to active addiction. You have modeled the opposite there. You have said, I will do that. You guys give me your money. And because you have done that, you had this additional, beautiful, positive pressure to continue, even at times when part of you was trying to convince you, it would be much easier to just go for the helping vehicle, the paramedics and just call it a day.
Yeah.
Beautiful. There are so many parallels in just that story.
It was a great experience. And the other spiritual principle, I think, is perseverance. That, you just have to keep and persevere, keep moving on, one step at a time. That's all you got to do. Just get the one step in and you can do this. Yeah.
And I mean, it is said that 80% of success is simply showing up. And that was, you actually did that. But then again, the other statistic that many people don't know is that when you are 100% convinced that physically you cannot continue anymore, you've still got 40% of energy left. You still got 40% left, and that it's all in your mind.
Absolutely.
And that is something that special forces and soldiers are practicing and are experiencing in their often very brutal training, which then prepares them for the real life event. However, we in our lives often don't get to experience that privilege. You actually went out there to see that power that resides within your own body. And that is the amazing thing, isn't it?
It's, it's intellectually, I understand that I can do more than I think I can do. So when I get to those points where I'm ready to quit, Michael, I know I got a little more gas left in me. Yeah. Let's just keep going, And, the program says one day at a time. So just Michael, just take one more step. Just do one more. You don't have to take it all. And I'm not responsible for the outcome. I'm just responsible for the effort. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, Michael, you didn't wake up one day when you were a teenager, said, yeah, I'm going to run an ultra marathon. I'm going to be that absolute cool dude who is helping so many people in the United States, who is going out there to do voluntary work and real work in Africa. What was your past like? Because
let me tell you something. What you just said, I did wake up as a child and think all of those things. I was going to do all of those things. But the problem for me as a child was I was a daydreamer. That I just imagined I would do things. I would never get them done. I had all of these thoughts of helping people. I had all of these adventures. I had all of this outdoor stuff, but I never did any of it. It was just a thought within me, but I never thought to act on it. Let me give you an example. I don't know, I was about 5 years in recovery, and I was working at an agency, and I was reading a magazine, GQ magazine. And this guy was writing a story about living in the desert, and he was doing a wilderness survival course. And I read the article. I thought it was a pretty neat article. And I said to my boss, hey, this guy went to the desert. It's pretty cool. Look at this, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, why don't you do it? And I'm like, I never thought to do it. I only thought to think about doing it and how he did it. And I said, you know what? Why don't I do it? So I found out where this place was. It was Boulder Outdoor Survival School in Utah. And I contacted them, and I signed up for one of their primitive living courses. And that was the first actual adventure I took in my recovery. Was going out there, and listen, you spend, I don't know, it was $1,500 or whatever to hang out in the desert, and the only goal was food, water, and shelter. And you were inconvenienced. You were sleeping out in the wilderness. It was cold. Sometimes it was wet. Sometimes it was scary. But that's what I had dreamed of. Those are the things that I thought of doing as a kid. I used to watch those nature shows. You'd see people going on safari and I'm doing this, that, and the other. And I just daydreamed about stuff like that. I never thought that I would actually do it. And recovery gave me the ability to turn my dreams into reality. And it was triggered by another person in recovery. My boss had been in recovery. And he just practically said, really simple, well, why don't you do it? Boy, never thought about actually doing it. I just thought about thinking about doing it, So It's amazing how those kind of things happen. And then it all started for me. I would take little adventures. Back in the 90s, you're not supposed to go to Cuba. And I would go to Cuba all the time. You weren't supposed to go. I said, well, I'm going to take a risk and go. I went 4 times, like in 93, 94, 95. And I would take these long weekends to Cuba and experience all of that and would talk about it. And, it was just a real adventure for me. And then I started to expand my travel to Asia, to Europe, and Africa. There was a time in 2005, I had an opportunity to go to Egypt. And, okay, I had about 16 years in recovery then. So I quit my job, I sold my house, sold my car, and I moved to Egypt. I always wanted to live in a foreign country.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity. What's stopping me? Well, the only thing that would stop me is me. If I thought about it too much, I wouldn't have done it, because it wasn't practical to do it. So I moved to Egypt. I stayed there for a year. I even gave my dogs away. After a year, right at the year point, a little over a year, the guy called me, Michael, I can't keep your dogs, blah, blah, blah. I said, great. Could you keep them for 1 more month because I'm coming back? So I got a dog sitter for over a year. I came back to my job and they gave me, they wanted me to come back and they gave me $15,000 more to come back. And they paid for my relocation. So it was just, I took a leap of faith and everything worked out.
Wow.
And, that's how, I know sometimes, the biggest obstacle for me at times in life is I think too much and I don't act enough.
Analysis paralysis, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Well, there's a difference between impulsivity and spontaneity. And that's what I have to figure out. What is the difference when I'm being impulsive? Maybe that's not so good thing, but I can be spontaneous.
Oh.
And a lot of good comes out of that. But it's the wisdom to know the difference, right? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the intriguing thing is that we all have got the same amount of seconds in a day. We all have got therefore the same amount of choices in a day. But some of us recognize them for what they are, opportunities, while others are held back by fear and are analyzing those choices, potential outcomes, until the opportunities are gone, essentially.
Yeah.
How do you distinguish for yourself impulsivity and spontaneity? Because that's a fantastic question.
One of the things that I understand, and I don't get it right all the time, I understand that I have the disease of addiction and it affects my thinking. And there is a part of me that leans towards pleasure. Anything that feels good. Now, anything that feels good isn't always good, but sometimes things that feel good are good for you. So it feels good to go on a trip. So I can be spontaneous and put together a trip, but I can be impulsive and put together a trip when it's the wrong time, or it costs too much money, or I have X, Y, and Z things to do that are priorities that I'm not going to be able to do.
Yep.
I was going to put together a trip in May to go back to Ethiopia for my not-for-profit. And that was more impulsive. The spontaneous me put together the trip in June. So I am going in June. I'm not going in May. I thought it through. It's just a better time for me to do it. There's other things that I need to get done before I go there. And I don't have to act on everything that I feel, although sometimes I feel like I have to act on it.
Very nicely said.
In order to get rid of the anxiety or that feeling, you got to go do it. Well, no, I can sit with it, because part of, the recovery for me is to be able to sit with my feelings. I don't have to act on everything.
Oh, nicely said. Nicely said.
Yeah.
When did you start listening to your feelings and actually taking time out to feel them and accept them as part of you? Because as addicts, we want to run away from the negative emotions. The moment something negative happens to you, you distract yourself. Work, in your case, so many other beautiful things. You could go for a run and label it positive, when in reality you're trying to escape, when you're running away from something.
I think it's an off and on. I don't, sometimes I give into it, sometimes I don't. An example of running or going to the gym, there's going to be a lot of pain involved in what I'm doing. And sometimes what I learned in recovery early on is, Michael, sometimes it gets harder before it gets easier. So you do actually have to go through the pain sometimes to get to the other side of it. And then sometimes, you know what, Michael, that's too painful. You don't need to put yourself through that. Don't do that. It's not good for you to do that. So it really is distinguishing, the idea, the wisdom to know the difference. I don't always get it right. I get it wrong, probably more than I get it right. But when I get it wrong, I can reflect on it. And, kind of take my inventory on it. And boy, Michael, that was, you maybe should have waited for that or not done that. Or why did you spend that money on that? In my house, right? I live alone. I have a small house, but I have 4 TVs. What do I need for? I can only watch one, and I get it. Maybe having 2, one in one room, one in the other. But I've got 4. Well, just in case you have company, just in case you want to watch a bigger screen than a smaller screen. So, these are some of the mistakes that I've made. That in the moment I was impulsive. I want a big screen TV. Yeah. So I got this huge TV in one room that I never watch. It's the biggest one in the house, but it's inconvenient for me to go in that room and watch. So I watch it in the smaller TV, And as I've gotten older, and this is something that's happened over the last couple of years, I'm not even that interested in TV.
Touché.
So now I got these TVs that I don't even watch for the most part. So this is all,
but then
what
again,
I'm learning in life.
Okay, but my friend, this is life is all about creating habits. It's all about making decisions, making choices, and sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And here you are, you're learning. Also, give yourself some space here, because at the time, the purchase served you a purpose. There was a reason that you did that, and maybe just circumstances have changed. My kids have left the house now within the last 2 years, or last year really, and I'm going through a divorce. So like you, I'm now regrouping and sort of looking around and thinking, okay, I have got certain things that were absolutely appropriate for a 4-person household. And now you're living alone and you think, okay. So things change. Your life changes. So therefore, don't judge the past with nowadays circumstances. No. You can only say, okay, fine, change has happened. It's inevitable. Yeah. So how do we deal with this change? Yeah. And I think that is the key thing. And that is where maybe the two of us have learned many, many hard lessons, because in the past, change would have been even more chaotic in our kind of really active addiction life, where you don't know how to deal with this change. and any change, then you would have been impulsive, would have responded maybe with an angry email or an angry statement at the wrong place, the wrong time. The worst letter you have ever written, kind of thing. So, but that is nowadays far less likely because we've made all
I got
these.
to tell you, in active addiction, there was only one purpose: to get more. So I didn't have to make a lot of decisions back then. The only decision that I had to make was, how do I get more?
Okay.
And go for it. Everything else was just left to chance.
Okay.
And recovery, I think what I was afraid of getting into recovery was the idea of being responsible, that I had to take responsibility for my life and my recovery. Things weren't going to just happen. Michael, you have some choices to make. And when you make those choices, you take responsibility for them versus blaming the universe for all of your problems.
Nice.
So recovery, the idea, well, I got to first tell you, I had no idea what recovery was when I got into it. All I knew was I was going to stop doing drugs, and then everything was going to be great. Until I realized that, Michael, you got to pay rent, you got to show up for work, you got to treat people decently, you got to treat yourself. You have all of these things that now you need to take responsibility for, that I didn't take responsibility for. So it was kind of like learning how to live my life. And thank God there were people before me who had been on this journey that could teach me the way to go. But you know what? I was, I guess, shame-based and afraid. So in early recovery, I kept people at a distance. But here's what I did. I observed. I didn't want anybody to think I was stupid, so I didn't ask any questions. You know what I mean? So I don't want to seem stupid. So I just watched people, and I watched what they did, and I picked up what they did. Early in recovery, I wasn't 100% sold on it. What do I need? What sponsor? I'm not having somebody tell me what to do. Steps, you got to be kidding. I'm not doing all that extra stuff. I like going to the meetings, and I like raising my hand and talking. And you know what? I'll be a coffee maker, but I'm not doing anything else. And you know what? Over time, this recovery plan that I was practicing wasn't giving me anything. There was no real payday after it. So what I realized was I needed to put more work into it. So I got a sponsor. I started doing step works. And guess what? There was a payday. When I put in the work, I got something out of it. And I really look at recovery as being that way. If there wasn't a payday for me in this, I wouldn't be doing it. And as I engage in this process, I seem to get something out of it. There are times when I've slowed down, I call it, in my recovery, and I'm just not getting that much. And if I want more, I just follow these simple steps. It's not asking that much of me to rest at times, to spend time with people talking about what's going on, maybe to write stuff down on a piece of paper, to be honest with myself. What is it? It's not asking too much. It doesn't take that much to do that. So I've learned that those kinds of things give me a great benefit.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's easy to practice them. Sometimes it's harder. I wonder, sometimes, why is it so hard to do something so simple? Why can't I just get off my ass and just do it? But there's just something, that resistance in me, that thing that stops me from doing it. But eventually I get up and do it.
It's beautiful. But that is these are this is basically the circle of the 12 steps, because once you actually start giving back and providing service to others, in whatever shape and form that is when suddenly your own past, when your own trauma actually makes sense. That's when actually suddenly you come up with a purpose in life. You actually come up with a mission in your own life, and that is so beautiful when you actually complete that circle from initially admitting that you can't continue, that and that you're accepting that you need the help from people who are further on, and all those kind of initial steps. Then the work that is so beautiful in there to actually deal with the crap that is happening in there, the core beliefs, the resentment, the anger, all that, figuring out why you tick the way you tick. Then creating habits that actually serve you probably better than the habits that you had before. And then finally coming out the other end and saying, wow, okay, what a ride. And that is so beautiful. And you are doing that. And the moment you stop doing that, you suddenly, the trauma says, well, okay, what about me? And you've got all the negative things coming back.
Yeah. You know, it's taken me 30-something years. You know, I've had glimpses of this in my recovery, that my purpose is to give back to others. That is my sole purpose in life, is to help others. Now, I knew that, you know, on a surface level for years in recovery, but I didn't know it deep in my bones until I had 30-something years. And I had been to Africa, and I was in one of the hottest places on earth, the Afar region in Ethiopia. And I went to this village, and this village, they had the school. It was a tent school, and it had been blown over by a windstorm or dust storm, and everything was in shambles. It was just, these people were just devastated. The school, the village. And I had told the village leader, I said, well, when I come back to Ethiopia, I'll get some school supplies. Right? So this was actually June of last year. And in September of last year, I was looking at my pictures, and I said, I got to go back to Ethiopia. So this is an example of spontaneity, not impulsivity.
Nice.
So I said, well, if I go back to Ethiopia, I got to bring this guy these school supplies, because I told him I'd do it. I said, oh, shit, how am I going to do that? So I just put out a notice that I was doing a fundraiser, and I'm going to try to raise $1,800 for school supplies. So I put out this notice. Within about 4 hours, I had raised $3,000 for school supplies. Within a week, I raised $13,000. And within a month, maybe 6 weeks, I raised $32,000. So after I raised the $13,000, I realized, Michael, you need to do a 501c. So I created this 501c. So I was able to put the money in, because I'm not going to bring $13,000 worth of school supplies. I put together a trip to go to Ethiopia, to go back to Ethiopia. That was last December that just passed. And me, with 7 huge suitcases of pens, pencils, notebooks, reading books, calculators, maps, and all kinds of school supplies, went to Ethiopia. Me on my own, me with 7 huge suitcases. How was I going to do it? Well, the hardest part is going from my house to the ticket counter at the airport. Once the luggage gets on the plane, you're good. And so I did that. So I went to Ethiopia, and I went to 3 different villages, and I was able to provide school supplies for about 300 kids that would last them for a year.
Beautiful, beautiful.
These kids, through no fault of their own, were born where they were born. They didn't have no choice where they were born. Some of these kids were born in the hottest place on earth. And the only way out, at least from what I could see, is through education. And so what can I do? I've been to Africa before, and you give away T-shirts and you give away soap and you give somebody $5 here and there. That's not going to make a difference. You know, it's nice, but it really doesn't really help. And when I went to that village and I saw what was going on there, I said, I got to help these people. And I've said that before, I got to help somebody. But I now need to respond to what I know is the right thing to do. It is my responsibility to help these people. It's nobody else's, because it was called on for me to do it. And my recovery is asking me, is telling me, is demanding that I respond when I'm called to do things. And so I did that. The example, you know, some of these kids, right? The example I always use is this one kid's grandfather, his father, his son and his grandson may never experience a glass of ice water in their whole life. As simple as ice water, they will not experience it because it's too hot, because they don't have refrigerators, they don't have ice. And I'm complaining, listen, I don't drink enough water. I got bottled water all over my house. I got an ice machine that I never use. And these people never. So, you know, I was able to bring some clothes. These kids have never owned a new pair of shoes or a T-shirt. So I'm on the mission again. I've got out my hallway, I've got 5 huge suitcases. I have another one coming, and then I'm buying another one. So I'm going to have probably 8 this time. And I'm going back to Ethiopia in June of this year. And what I've done with this one particular school is I've helped them with their walls. So I've built out the walls. We've built out the floors. So now they're not on a dirt floor, they're on a cement floor. And I've been able to provide seating for 60 kids. So in their classroom, they have desks. And it's from the kindness of others, you know, that have helped me with it. And my willingness to help, because I think about it, you know, like, Michael, you're going to Ethiopia and you're going to help these kids. You could go on a great vacation. You could go do other stuff just for you. But how much pleasure do I need in life? And isn't it pleasurable? It certainly is for me pleasurable to give a kid some stuff and they smile and they say thank you. That's as nice as any nice hotel or a nice meal. You know, I know that this kid appreciates what I've given them. But you know what I've also learned? I've learned a little bit about giving. That you can give too much. And sometimes giving is about ego.
Exactly.
And I have to kind of watch that too. You know, that I can give when I've lost the purpose of giving is gone. When I give to these people, my job is not to foster a dependency for them to think, oh, anytime there's an American that comes over, get some stuff for them. So I've also tried to work with these people around, you know, the work that I'm doing with the wall and the floors. I'll give you the money for it, but you have to provide some of the material. So I've given them the money for the cement and the laborers, where they've brought the sand and the water in. And you say to yourself, well, water, what's water? In foreign countries, water is not just something you just get. You got to actually, you got to work for your water. Water doesn't come free. So they've been willing to do their part in getting the sand and water, and I've committed to my part by giving them the cement and paid for the labor. And I want to continue to do stuff like that, because if I don't do it, who will?
It's beautiful.
And listen, I'd like to inspire other people to do it. You know, we're all on this earth together. We all have the same sky. We're all under the same sky. And the truth is we're all human. I'm not sure why there's such a separation in different human beings or different, and one gets more and one gets less. But there certainly are people that have a whole lot more than others. And, you know, I want to give or try to create an equal playing field, you know? Yeah. And recovery has given me the inspiration, the thought, and the hope that I can do that, and that I can give to others and I'll still be okay.
Beautiful.
That I don't lose by giving to somebody else.
No. Well, that's a very good thing, because often enough, part of our disease is people pleasing, or not disease. Actually, that's not part of addiction, but it's often part of the underlying root causes of addiction, i.e. the trauma, i.e. maybe being the adult children of alcoholics, or whatever has led to you trying to escape your reality. And the people pleasing is so easy. It's a core part of some of us. And therefore, it's actually important to recognize that. So I love your careful distinction. And essentially, what you're doing is you're analyzing in a positive way the thoughts and emotions and feelings that you've got. As again, we're coming back to the impulsivity versus spontaneity. Spontaneity.
Yes.
It's who invented that word? Honestly,
Well, it's just like people coming into recovery that can't say anonymity.
Oh yeah, there you go. Touche. I think the reality is there is so much that we essentially can grow when we actually stop running away, when we actually stop to feel. Stop to actually let go. When we start to let go, when we actually go out there and start to live in a way that we can be proud of. And it doesn't take so much, does it? It takes tiny little steps, but it's the power of compound interest. If we actually do little steps every day, inevitably, you will see fruits blossoming, and it's just wow. Michael, you're an amazing man. You are truly proof that the past does not equal the future, and you're truly proof that everyone can start changing the world. You are have taken quite big steps, but I bet you when you started, they were tiny steps, and you weren't even sure that these tiny steps would lead you anywhere. But here you are, living proof that you can achieve so much. Yeah. Oh, wow. Michael, if people want to know more about your work and more about you, where can they find you?
I have a landing page, coachmichaelherbert.com. I also have a website, recoveryguide.net. And my not-for-profit for any donations and things like that is africanhopefulhorizons.org. I'd appreciate any help that you can give me on that. And you could also reach me at michael@africanhopefulhorizons.org if you want to email me. But all of my other information is on coachmichaelherbert.com, recoveryguide.net, or africanhopefulhorizons.org.
Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because all of Michael's links are down there. Whilst you're down there, press the like and subscribe button so that we trigger more algorithms. Therefore, we actually, these beautiful interviews reach more people out there, because we are all here together in this world. And if we all work together by, for example, you subscribing to my channel, we can make a difference, because we just bring the word out there. We can seed hope. We can be the light in the darkness of others. And that is, I think, such a beautiful mission. I will not stop anytime soon, that's for sure, because that's such a wonderful wonderful thing to do for me to actually provide this platform out there, because we can link people together. Like Michael and me, we have never met before, yet there is this link there where we are convinced, yes, we can make this world a better place. So guys, come along on this journey and check Michael's details out. And if there is a bit of money floating around, go to Michael and see if you cannot contribute.
I'm also on Instagram, but I always forget what it is. I think it's Michael.Herbert.
Look down there. Look down there.
Something.
Exactly. Yeah. Look down there into the details.
And let me tell you. Let me give you one more adventure I took. 2 years ago, I was feeding wild hyenas. I put a stick in my mouth, and they would throw meat over the stick, and the hyenas would just come up and rip it off. It was the most terrifying experience I've had in life. But I said, I got to do it while I'm here. Yeah. It was something else.
Ethiopia, or where was that?
That was in Ethiopia, yeah. Yeah, it was just, It was great, yeah.
Don't try that at home, kids.
Do not try that at home, no.
Michael, you're an amazing man. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
No trouble at all. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Bye.
Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.